Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dreamhack Summer Group A, and this is a match between Lions Pride versus Mouse, or EL Pride versus Mouse. And I've heard that this game is ridiculously
Mouse
exciting, so I'm
sports
really
turn to
looking forward
ban.
to casting this matchup. I will be casting this solo for now, but hopefully in the next couple Dreamhack cast matches I might be able to get a co-caster on, but this one at the very least, it will be flying solo. So we're going to take a look at Mouse versus Lions Pride.
10
This is Group A.
seconds
So
remaining.
far, I think Mouse Sports are 1-0 in the
5
group. I'm not
seconds
too sure what
remaining.
Lions Pride is in their group just yet. But Mouse, keep in mind, they are playing with the
Radiant
stand-in. You can see
team
Bone
ban.
7 from Kaipi is playing for Mouse in this turn instead of their other person.
Mouse sports
Oh
turn
my
to
god, I can't
ban.
even remember their last player. I'm such a bad person. Oh, instead
Radiant
Koikwa.
team ban.
But anyways, Mouse versus Lions Pride. I haven't really heard of Lions Pride. All I know is that they used to be a Russian team, and back then they had Vigos, but now it seems like they're all Danish since they're playing with a bunch of Danish players, as well as Standing.Mini. So shoutouts to Mini, was
10
probably my favorite
seconds
player on the
remaining.
Keypad Red Pandas. Ridiculously strong support player, and looks like he's drafting
5
for Lions Pride,
seconds
interestingly enough.
remaining.
So maybe this is going to be a permanent stand, I'm not too sure. But all these players,
Reserve
Link,
hurry.
Hestijo, Rotten, Noya, and Crit, are all very well known players. These three players used to be on 3D Max. They had a lot of talent, but 3D Max ultimately just did not pan out for them. So it's nice to see them back in action, and we're going to have to see how this works out today. So Mouse going to have the Leicester as well as the Wisp. Very common opening picks, leaving the Barrett still open in the pool. But keep in mind, this patch has Barrett nerfed a little bit more because Flame Rake
Mouse
pushback
sports
is
turn
not
to pick.
proportional to where you actually cast Flame Rake. So a couple slight nerfs to
Radiant
Barrett here
team
and there,
ban.
just adjusting him. But he's still very powerful as a ganker as well as a team fight initiator, and that's why he's going to be the opening pick for Mouse Sports.
Radiant
Meow
team
Lion's
pick.
probably going to follow up with a Darkseer as well as a Spectre. So Spectre seems to be one of
Mouse
the top tier
sports
carries in
turn
this
to
patch,
pick.
at least so far. Keep in mind this patch has been all out or out for all of about 2 weeks, I think. So teams are still experimenting. But they can't experiment for too much because this tournament has a ridiculous prize pool on the line. 300,000 Swedish kroner is going to be on the line for all the places. I think that translates to around 35 or $45,000. So a lot of money on the line, a lot
10
of
seconds
pride.
remaining.
DreamHack is only twice a year. Well, the major DreamHacks. DreamHack
5
Valencia
seconds
is still a
remaining.
very prestigious tournament, but the DreamHack lands in Sweden
Radiant
are the
team
most
ban.
noteworthy, and this is one of these two matches, and this is probably the last major Western LAN before TI3. So both teams, or all the participating teams, definitely want to get on their A game before they start boot camping, so they can just have a little bit of momentum,
10
a little bit of
seconds
pride
remaining.
before they start getting right into the action. So Mouse gonna pick up the Nyx Assassin
Mouse
as well
sports
to pair with the
turn to
Baronar. I'm
ban.
sure this will probably be a Nyx Assassin support. I've got to imagine that Synerin will play this Nyx Assassin, but it remains to be seen so far. They do have to potentially put a mid. This could be a mid-soul Baronar as well. But again, these heroes being picked up by Mouse are
10
very
seconds
flexible,
remaining.
so it's very difficult to say what lanes these heroes actually traverse to.
5
Meow
seconds
Lion's Pride, this will
remaining.
most likely be an offlane Darkseer with a carry Spectre and a defensive Tryon. Spectre, again,
Reserve
her main
time.
weakness is that she's very weak in Tryon versus Tryon matchups because she really does not contribute much, if at all, other than a kind of weakish nuke. I mean, it's not called Spectre Hammer, it's called Spectral Dagger. And that dagger, not really threatening whatsoever. But Lions Pride, since they've already picked up their carry, they're going to ban out carries favoring black. So they're going to get rid of the anti-mage. I wouldn't be too surprised to see if Lions Pride actually ban out Alchemist as well. Or maybe Phantom Lancer, as Mousesport's going to ban out the Treant. Treant,
Radiant
of course, has
team
been
ban.
receiving a lot of attention as of late. Living Armor is ridiculously powerful. And in conjunction with the really defensive hero in form of Spectre, that's going to pretty much make Spectre unkillable. Although, I don't know if Lions Pride would have actually picked up Tree, because then they'd be focusing a little bit too
10.
much on defensive play rather than aggressive play.
Mouse sports turn to ban.
Lions Pride interesting enough, instead of respect banning towards black some more, they're just going to get rid of Clockwork. So I guess they're just going to ban heroes that they don't really particularly like playing against. So Clockwork is going to be banned by Lions Pride in this situation, and that means
10 seconds
Pass on
remaining.
the long lane, or Bone 7 on the long lane, won't be able to play that Clockwork since
5
Koikwa
seconds
was long lane
remaining.
player for Mouse, but in this tournament he is going to be replaced by Bone 7. And Mouse, we'll see. They're
Reserve
probably going to ban
hurry.
out another support since they already have one of the supports, and Lions Pride have yet to pick up any supports. So I'm going to count on something like a Shadow Demon, maybe a Jakiro, in favor of the Darkseer choice. Heroes of that nature will probably be pseudo bans for Mouse up against Lion's Pride. And of course, Nick Assassin Battle Rider combination is really powerful because not only is Nick Assassin just a really overall powerful hero, I mean, he was nerfed so that Mana Baron actually scales, but still, once you get it to max level, it's as powerful as ever. But Mouse actually going to ban the Visage, and instead going to give up the Puck as well as getting themselves a Shadow Demon. So their last ban will most likely be a support, considering Lion's Pride have yet to pick up any supports whatsoever. But there are still a lot of strong supports left in the pool. There's Crystal Maiden, which Lion's Pride is going to pick up, Jakiro, Lina, just a multitude of different supports that Lion's Pride could potentially choose for themselves. Meanwhile, Mouse, since they already have their support duo, we're going to look to see them pick up perhaps, I've got to imagine their offlane hero, unless they want to go on the offensive. And right now, Nick Assassin and Shadow Demon, they do have the potential to go on the offensive, but they might have to favor getting a range carry, because getting 2 melee carries in offensive trial, unless they have a lot of burst damage, might be a bit difficult going up against Crystal Maiden. And Spectre, of course, is pretty maneuverable for a hard carry, so I think Mouse, if they want to go on the offensive, they will have to pick up a ranged hard carry, and right now those are in a bit of short supply, and that's why I'm a bit puzzled by the Visage ban. But Lion's Pride did have the first choice after the second ban phase, so Lion's Pride, or that's why Mouse probably just didn't want to give up Visage to Lion's Pride. That would probably give him way too much gold presence with the familiars as well as Haunt, give them way too much tankiness, and Mouse Sports, even though they have strong gankers in the form of Battle and Nyx, it might just be a bit too much HP to work through in the mid to late stages of the game. And whenever there's a Spectre, you do want to play for the early game, but you always got to keep the late game in the back of your mind just because she does get ridiculously powerful at that point. But I love this Crystal Main choice by Lion's Pride. Not only does it help back up the Spectre Trillion with a nice bit of rest, and it's now going to pick up a Mirana. Wow, this is a hero I was not expecting to see, as she was buffed. The arrow now does a bit more damage based on how far it's traveled. The arrow size is a bit slimmer. It lost a little bit of weight, put on that slim fast diet, and also Starfall no longer hits dead units. The second hit of Starfall no longer hits dead units, and Blood Shadow has been buffed as well, but in terms of carrying, she's really not that strong just because she takes way too much farm compared to other carries to beef up her damage output, and her base damage is amongst the lowest in the games, and that's really the claring point for most people who want to buff her. They're always like, alright, let's buff the base damage, but Ice Frog seems to have other agendas in mind and how to deal with Mirana. But we'll see how Mirana's played. I gotta assume she's gonna be played as a carry in this game just because they already have the supports, and support Mirana is viable, but it's not really the most reliable. Unless they do Nick Assassin mid, Barret, or offlane or something like that, then I've got to imagine that this Mirana is going to be played as a hard carry. And if that is the case, it could be a decent choice. Mirana is very maneuverable. She's pretty difficult to kill in general, but in terms of dealing with Spectre, she's just going to need so much damage just to melt through that armor, and Puck will just evade a lot of the damage, Darkseer evades a lot of the damage, and Lion's Pride going to secure their last choice with Windrunner, so this will be a support Windrunner most likely. And right now, Lion's Pride definitely taking advantage of Mouse Sports' perhaps aggressive try-and behavior, because Mirana doesn't really do that much damage. They have the Disruption Arrow set up, but Windrunner does have Windrun to escape from situations. She also has Shackle Shot to bail her team out of trouble, and has a really nice base attack animation and base attack time just to really out-harass Mouse Sports' tri-lane.
10 seconds remaining.
So, Crystal Main, Windrunner, Spectre, pretty interesting tri-lane, but I think it'll get the job done. The only problem is that Windrunner isn't really the best ganking partner, so if Lion's Pride does want to go for a gank up against the middle lane, then it will be a bit difficult, but they have Crystal Main, who is probably one of the best ganking supports in the game, if not the best ganking support, just because she has so much range and so much damage, as Mouse Sports is going to secure the last pick with Queen of Pain in the middle lane, will be handled by Fada. So it's going to be a Queen of Pain versus Puck matchup. This does favor Puck very slightly. In a land environment, it might favor Puck a bit more since he has that reaction time to dodge these Scream of Pains or Shadow Strikes a bit easier, but still, it will depend on how much the mid heroes are pulled, and only really Navi does favor pulling the mid at every turn. I don't know if Fada really likes getting pulled, or pooled. Especially when it most likely will be a Trillion versus Trillion scenario, it might not be wise to pull the Queen of Pain too hard, and if that's the case, then Puck should have the advantage, at least in the early levels. Once Queen of Pain does manage to get a couple more levels, her damage, her Scream of Pain will just start pushing the wave a lot faster than Puck could potentially do. But actually, it'll be Fada playing the Baroner, so it looks like it will be a mid lane Baroner, and perhaps a safe lane Queen of Pain with an aggressive Triline with the Nyx Shadow Demon as well as Mirana. That could be a possibility, because Baroner versus Darkseer is a bit annoying to deal with. And of course, I'm just assuming all this just because I'm assuming Mouz will go on the offensive, because in order to deal with Spectre, that is something that you probably have to do, in my opinion. You do have to go on the offensive, otherwise you just are in a lot of danger, unless you go for a really, really early push strategy, which might not be the case for Mouz lineup. I mean, Mouz lineup, they don't push well whatsoever. Well, Mouz, this is a really, really strong ganking lineup, but I'm a bit hesitant to see against Alliance Pride, really, really strong global nature slash mobile lineup how well this ganking lineup can potentially work out, as good luck, have fun is the call. Time to introduce the players and the team, so we're going to have Stand-In Mini playing the Crystal Maiden, going to have Link, the long-lost Danish carry player, playing the Spectre. Hestijo Rotten will be playing the Puck. Noya is playing the Darkseer. I think Hestijo and Noya are brothers, if I'm not mistaken. And Crit will be playing the support Windrunner. Meanwhile, on the side of Mouz, we're going to have Synderen playing Nyx Assassin, the Sin Assassin. Sin. Is gonna be playing that Nyx. Fada is gonna be playing the Bat Rider. No, it looks like he swapped. He's playing the Queen of Pain instead. Instead, it'll be Bone 7 on the Bat Rider. This is what I was expecting. Possibly playing the Shadow in black. We'll be playing the hardcore carry Mirana. And in terms of hardcore carries, Mirana isn't really as impressive as other carries that black tends to favor, like Alchemist, Sven, Phantom Letzer. I mean, every other carry. But you know Black, he will make any carry work out, so we're going to have to see how efficiently he farms. The problem with Mirana is that her damage, 46 damage, is just not that impressive. But he is facing a melee carry on the other opposite side of the spectrum, and Mirana, since she does have decent range, won't really be harassed as easily compared to other carries in the game. Alright, now Synderen just going to standard block the camp with the Sentry Ward. Meanwhile, just checking out the middle lane, it looks like Baroner was pulled a salve from the Shadow Demon. Meanwhile, Puck was pulled a set of Tangos. So both heroes pulled a respectable amount, but Bone 7 is going for the fast ball, so he is going to sacrifice a bit of the regeneration. And instead, it'll be Queen of Pain up against Darkseer. And the reason why I think Baroner versus Puck is a better matchup than Queen of Pain versus Puck is just because you can't dodge sticky napalm stacks, but sticky napalm is such a short cooldown that you can't dodge every single stack. Otherwise, you will be in danger of losing a lot of damage. As the first blood already does go through, I didn't see that because I'm an idiot. Might as well go back in time. Just because, hey, it's a replay cast. Why the hell not? I think I can just guess how Mini got started as the disruption animation was just following around. Here comes the Impale. The arrow's going to trap him in place, so this Triline does do a lot of damage output as well as stuns people for quite a bit. So nice engagement by Mouz. Synderen does pick up the first blood. That will mean a fast flying courier, and that will allow Baroner to get his bottle a lot sooner. So now Alliance Pride gonna have to be a bit careful. It's gonna be scary ganking in the middle lane just because they're gonna have to travel by all the supports and they're gonna be Spectre by their lonesome. So they might be forced into a very, very defensive situation up against the Tri-Lane of Mouz, which does have a lot of damage potential, but in terms of carry potential, it's really not that impressive compared to Spectre's capabilities. And so far, Spectre is holding her own for the most part, has a Stout Shield, has not burned any tangos whatsoever, and is playing quite well. But yeah, Baroner up against Puck is definitely an easier matchup than Baroner against Darkseer, just because Darkseer can just keep the waves pushed out at all times in the form of Iron Shell. At least this way, Queen of Pain can counter push a bit more easily with the Scream Pain. But interesting enough, just got 1 point to Shadow Strike. I guess just for the base rises, because level 1 Scream Pain won't really accomplish too much, but you can see Crystal Main pushing back the lanes ever so slightly with the Frost Nova. And so far, this Triline not working that well for Alliance Pride, but still, Spectre has been able to pick up 6 CS, and Link is a very, very strong farmer, even though it's been a while since we've last seen him play. Or at least, it's been a while since I've last seen him play anyways. But meanwhile, Mirana has that Ring of Basilius, going to increase her damage, as well as give her allies a nice bit of mana regeneration, as Frostbite is continuously spammed, still level 1. Probably going to get Frostbite at level 2, but if she does manage to get 1 point to Aura, I wouldn't be too surprised one way or the other. It'll most likely be Frostbite in case there is another gank attempt. And I'm just going to check out the clarities. No, Crystal Main doesn't have any clarity. She already used her last clarity, but she has upgraded the courier at the very least. Nice playmaker by Bone 7, going to push back Hestijo Ron, has 5 stacks of Napalm on him, but Bone 7 will have to retreat in the end, just because it is a bit dangerous initiating into a Puck when he does have Phase Shift, which costs 0 mana, and Bone 7 wasn't at full HP, nor was he at full mana. But so far, Bone 7 doing a nice job up against the puck in the middle lane. Is being outlisted as well as out-denied because of that null talisman, but he did get his bottle up faster, and with that, he will be able to get himself back in the lane contention at the very least. And ever since that initial gank, so far, Mouz really unable to keep the Spectre back. She's picked up boots as well as Magic Stick, so Spectre is doing a really nice job handling herself in the lane. And this is the problem with this Trine. Unless they use their spells, they really can't do that much against Spectre. Mirana, really not that good in terms of harassment. Of course, she wants to focus on last lane creeps. Nyx Assassin, not as strong in terms of harassment either, just because Mana Burn doesn't do as much as it used to. And, I mean, you can harass quite a bit with Shouting, but against Windrunner Crystal main combination, it is always a tricky situation. Looks like Darkseer was forced from the top lane for now. Queen of Pain probably did a significant amount of damage, has picked up Neltaz, and here comes the disruption on the bottom lane onto Crystal Main once again, impeccably timed, but beautiful positioning by Link. Did you see that? He ran right in front of Black to cut out the option of arrowing, and Spectre does pick up the last hit. Black does have the arrow, but actually he doesn't have the arrow because it was on cooldown, but really, really nice job positioning themselves to protect Mini. And that allowed Alliance Pride to secure a kill on the Shadow Demon and really, really try to take control of this lane. And so far, Spectre is just farming way too well. She's going to have a very, very fast phase boots, and giving Spectre uninterrupted farm is just not going to be a good idea if you're a Mouz fan. And you can see Black last hitting better as here comes an engage and crit. Will dodge arrow, nicely done. It is a lot more difficult to set up, but beautiful shackle shot by Crit. Does manage to get a 2-man shackle. Will pick off the Nyx Assassin. And Spectre gets another kill. He's well on his way towards the phase boots, and this Trine is starting to spiral a bit out of control for Mouz. They are getting last hits nonetheless, but they are not successful in their endeavor to keep Spectre down. And Mouz, they don't really have any carries that match up to Spectre in the late stages of the game. So really, really remarkable job by Alliance Pride. And a bit of unfortunate play for Mouz. Just mistiming the stuns, or just, you know, not having positioning correctly in place to really maximize the stun duration. And that's costing them quite a bit. Pause is the call. It's a LAN tournament, so this is not too sure what the pause is, but obviously not tactical pause since nothing major is happening. But if you look at the far of Spectre, 12-1 is well on our way towards the phase boots. Meanwhile, Puck, 27-6, Barretter has managed to catapult himself ahead in terms of CS chart. Probably going to stick with these 3 Ironwood branches rather than getting that magic wand and then instead rush the dagger. I have a feeling he'll really need to rush that dagger since Spectre is doing such a good job and really needs to go on the offensive, but Spectre is already level 5. Batter just barely matched the level 6, so the level advantage severely in favor of the Radiant at this moment. Well, not really that big a deal since Darkseer was driven from the top lane, but still, in terms of Trine vs. Trine, Link does have the cards in his favor. Meanwhile, Fada, is he bottle crowing? He is bottle crowing, and you can see with the sideline bottle crow, he's leaving 1 bottle charge still left in the curve. If he had an empty bottle, then the distance from the base to the sideline is just way too much. So he's only forced to use 2 bottle charges, but for a Queen of Pain with a Magic Stick against Darkseer, who really can't chase the Queen of Pain down effectively, this 1 bottle being left over should not be the biggest deal. And Bone 7 just holding on to 0 bottle charges, but Barretter really not that man intensive of a hero unless he repeatedly spams the Flame Break, which so far it looks like he's not doing that much, and he's still managing to hold on to his bottle charges. You can see he just managed to use that last bottle charge, so he's doing alright. Meanwhile, Puck in the middle lane, see what is he's getting delivered to him. It's going to be that full bottle as he is bottle crowing continuously. Not too sure who has the overall rune control. I had to favor the Dire slightly because their supports can more easily rotate down to this bottom ward, but Puck can push out the creep waves a lot more easily than the Barretter potentially can. Just because Barretter probably doesn't want to use his Flame Break, whereas Puck can freely spam that orb because he has that other form of escaping in the back of the phase shift. Meanwhile, checking out the levels on the supports, Crit, 1 level into Wind Run, not getting any points into Power Shot, instead getting Max Shackle Shot. I like this build quite a bit because Crystal Main does enough damage for most supports, and Wind Runner doesn't really do that much damage, and since the Spectre has been able to get off to such a good start, only getting 1 point to Dagger instead of maxing Desolate. because she has gotten off to such a good start. If she was getting off to a bit poor of a start, she'd probably get a couple more points in dagger, but since she is getting off to such a good start, she's allowed to be more aggressive and play towards the mid game a bit more effectively with maxing Desolate. And these shackle shots have definitely been on point. Maxing shackle shot, that 2.25 second duration stun is quite ridiculous at this stage in the game, even without much damage, because Windrunner by herself does do a respectable amount of damage on the form of her physical attacks. And that disable will allow Crystal Maiden to plod forward and able to actually cast her abilities. So nice skill build adjustment by Crit thus far. I've always been a fan of Crit, but it's nice to see him back in action. You know, it'll be interesting to see what build Black goes. When Bottom first faded out as a carry, phase boots used to be the boots of choice, but I don't know. I think Treads on Bottom is going to be better, especially for Black, who probably wants the attack speed, as well as the extra bit of intelligence she gets from Tread switching, which I find is the best deal with Treads. Especially since you don't have anything like a Crystal Main, you don't have a bottle. So I think you're going to need to maximize your mana potential by having those Treads up rather than the phase boots. And even if you do have phase boots, catching up to a Darkseer lineup, a Puck lineup, a Spectre lineup, and even a Windrunner lineup might be a bit too hard. So I think Treads will be the choice for Black. We'll see what he decides to go for his first time. Probably get those boots, and then maybe finish the Magic Wand, and then decide from there. I'm not too sure. You know, Synderen has a boot speed as well as has a ward, but looks like this ward, the Sentry Ward did manage to get the D ward off at the very least, and that Sentry Ward actually allows these camps to be stacked as well as pulled. I was about to say, I don't know if that ward actually blocks off the pulls, but looks like Lions Pride have practiced it, and they are effectively able to pull now, so the creep wave is going to be pulled back towards them, and that means Crystal Maiden will be able to hit level 3 relatively soon, and you know, there's really not too much Mouse can do contest it. You know, Link just continue to last hit under the tower as best he possibly can, as there will be a fight for the top rune. Darkseer is rotating in kind, but the rune is going to spawn on the opposite side of the map, and that will favor the Dire since they do have supports in a better position. But when all is said and done, Barretter will have to waste a bit of time running backwards and forwards throughout the lanes, and he will miss a bit of experience. Disruption going down onto the Spectre. They wait for all the creeps to die, but the Impale is mistimed. Here comes another 2-second shackle shot. Really well played by Crit as the teleport comes in from the Puck. Synderen trying to escape but cannot escape. Black just trying to do as much damage as possible. They almost managed to kill off Link. If they didn't mistime the stun, they would have been able to kill off Link. But I think Mouse might be playing with a bit of nerves, which is a bit surprising since Synderen has already won Dreamhack twice. He has a 100% win rate in Dreamhack tournaments in Dota 2 thus far. But so far, his team not executing to the best of their abilities, and Puck coming with a nice gank. That shackle shot by Crit, once again proving to be a phenomenal way to lock people in place. So far, has been constantly able to catch 2 people in its stun. But Mouse, they're going to persevere. They're going to continue on with this try, but Link has healed himself back up to nearly full HP, has the phase boots as well. But Synderen does not want to let up on pressuring the Spectre just yet. And you can see Spectre is suffering in terms of farm, but in terms of levels, Spectre is having a ridiculously easy time. The arrow does whiff, as here comes a teleport back by Link. Is it gonna, or by Crit, is he going to for a shackle shot? No, he is going to delay that for now. Not finding the appropriate angle, and knows he can be a bit more defensive at this point, since they already have a good advantage. Does manage to find himself a nice little hole in the trees to try to do as much physical harassment as possible, and you can see that base attack animation being 1.5 seconds really helps out the Windrunner quite a bit. You know, I like what Bone7's doing. He's going to go into the jungle, stack them, because if he does die in the next upcoming engagements, he really wants to have that dagger up ASAP. So he's going to go in the jungle, stack the camps, get a reliable source of farm. He will forfeit the double damage rune to the Puck, and he's going to have to be careful since Dreamcoil is online, but Dreamcoil does get whiffed. Looks like a slight misplay by Hestijo Ron. But that will force Barretter from the middle lane since he doesn't want to deal with the double damage Puck, even with the Dream Coil already being expended. Instead, he's going to go into the jungle, get some safe farm, and will be very close to picking up his dagger. But on the other side of the coin, Puck has that magic wand, whereas Barretter does not. And he also has his null talisman. And he's starting to make his way towards his own dagger, and once he gets that, suddenly Mirana's versatility is going to be mitigated quite a bit, because she'll get silenced whenever she tries to leap away. She can't cast Moonlight Shadow when you're silenced either. So we'll see what Mirana decides to go for. She is going to go for phase boots, but will she go for something like a Lincoln's or a straight up BKB, as some Miranas do like to favor? She might go for Lincoln's, but it's a bit iffy to say at this point. So for Mouz, in order for them to turn around, a lot of pressure will have to go on Fada to create some room. He is level 8. He has been able to do a successful job against the Darkseer thus far. Has been able to get more experience than the Darkseer. But Darkseer is farming a very, very fast mechanism. So he will have the mechanism up relatively soon. Meanwhile, Fada, only with the intelligence treads, not really too many game-breaking items up his sleeves just yet. And does have a teleport in case Lion's Pride does decide to dive in on their tower, but you can see Lion's Pride currently has no intentions of doing just that. They have a Spectre lineup and they're going to play defensively so far. Instead, we're going to see Mini teleport himself to the top lane. He's going to wrap all the way around, anticipating that there aren't any wards on the top lane. Or maybe he's going for Queen of Pain to push out a bit further. He does have a level into Frostbite to hold Fada in place, but will they have enough damage to keep him in place for too long? That remains to be seen. As the creeps have died, I don't think Fada has caught sight of Mini just yet. Yeah, you can see Fada currently has no idea that Mini is waiting in the wings very patiently. Crystal Main stalking her prey. She's gonna come in with a Frostbite. Surge! Just nice reactions by Fada, and an immediate teleport is gonna come in. Here comes Spectre Haunt, as maybe they want to go in for the kill, but instead Haunt will be wasted. Level 1 Haunt, not really the biggest deal, especially when you're still laning to waste, so not really the biggest loss, just a little bit of lost time for Mini. But that is allowing Winrard to catch up a bit in terms of experience. She has been able to hit level 5 and now has a 3-second stun on that Shackle Shot. Really, really incredible at this stage in the game. And Barrett, interestingly enough, went for the straight up Boots of Travel rather than going for the Blink Dagger. Not too sure why he'd do that. Maybe this is a Bone 7 build? Maybe he wants to have a bit more versatility in terms of getting himself around the map. Maybe he wants to increase move speed as well, up against heroes like Crystal Maiden, with the Frost Nova to slow him down, as well as the Darkseer having Surge to speed him up. But I don't know, usually Blink Dagger Rush is the standard way to play Batrider, so we're going to have to see if this weird build by Bone 7 does have the potential to work out. But that does mean that he's going to have to farm a bit more in order to get himself to that dagger, so looks like they're going to give up any intentions of pressuring the Spectre for now, and I think this is actually the right call by Mouz, because so far their engagements have just not been working out. Link is level 7, meanwhile Black is not even level 6. He's getting dangerously close to 6, but still, level 6 Mirana compared to a level 7 Spectre. Even though the Spectre only has 23 CS, it's just not going to work out. It's like it's going to rush the Blade Mother. Shackle Shot! Oh man, just barely whiffed on the Mirana. If it did manage to latch, that Mirana most likely would have died, but still. That Shackle Shot just costs so little in terms of mana that she can freely spam it. Well, relatively speaking, considering she's not spamming Power Shot too often. Meanwhile, Bone 7 flew overhead, trying to catch out Darkseer, but Darkseer just playing very passively. Is going to have that mechanism up relatively soon. We'll have it up in about 350 gold. And with that, it'll be incredibly difficult to actually gank this bottom challenge, since Darkseer can potentially teleport himself to the bottom lane, just heal them up with mechanism, and then turn the gankers around pretty much single-handedly. As Paz caught in a very dicey situation, tried to get the rune. Instead, Puck does manage to get a very easy kill. Gets a Dream Pull onto Synderen, as here comes teleport by the Barrett. He does have Flaying Lasso, as he will pop the Firefly. Will manage to get Puck, who did have his dagger. Puck looks like he will most likely die. He is going to die. Link will have to retreat, but one more hit will finish him off. Nice job by Black. Here comes Queen of Pain back on the assault. Nice turn by Mouz thus far, as they manage to get themselves another kill. Meanwhile, Crit could be in a lot of trouble, but he will be able to escape. Not much mana left in the tanks of Mouz Sports. So the remaining Arsenal of Lion's Pride will be able to retreat for now. And Darkseer not having the mechanism meant he couldn't teleport himself to the bottom lane to help out his allies, and besides, his allies were in way too deep. If he teleport himself to this tower, it's doubtful that he would have been able to save his allies. So interesting choice. Looks like the Boots of Travel choice by Bone 7 ends up working for this engagement. He actually counter-shaded quite well on the Puck. And because you can teleport on creeps and you don't have to teleport on tower, as Synderen could potentially be in a lot of trouble. Here comes the Hawk coming in from the Spectre, as Spike Carapace will hold Mini in place for a moment. But that is going to be hit. Barrett are going to teleport himself to the top lane. Flame Break will push Mini back. Mini is going to be in a lot of trouble, but the Surge by the Darkseer just going to prove to be way too annoying to deal with. And Bone 7 will have to forego his chase for the moment at the very least. But yeah, back to the Baron. The Boots Travel looks like it's panning out a bit more effectively because his allies are able to teleport in to the tower a lot more successfully. Meanwhile, he can teleport himself into the creep wave, and that means that he will be able to escape. But Art of Flame Break would have too long of a travel time to potentially catch him out. But that means his allies will constantly have a shorter teleport duration on the towers because Bone 7 can just always teleport himself into the creep wave and just really, not have to worry about that increased travel time on the TP scroll when multiple people do teleport to the tower. So it looks like Mouz emphasizing a bit more counter gank potential rather than going for the straight up gank potential. Fada calls for a pause. Spectre gonna go for the Havos build, rushing Blade Mill. As Max Dessa, it feels like that's pretty much all the damage he needs at this point. 2-point Spectral Dagger, as go is the call. Black gonna pick up an Ogre Club. Is he gonna rush BKB in this game?
Oh no.
Getting such an early BKB could be a bit annoying since the BKB time will most likely go down to 4 seconds. But he does really want to have the magic damage negation factor up against Puck, Darkseer, Windrunner. I don't know, this could potentially be an S and Y, since one of Black's alternate names is Blackheart's S and Y, so I'm not going to call it just yet. It has the indications that will be a for BKB, but Mirana as a hero does have some innate survivability at the very least, but up against Buck, I mean, it is a bit iffy, especially since Buck has already finished a very fast dagger, as here comes the teleport from the Radiant, trying to defend their top tower since they already killed off the middle tower. Fada won't be able to do sufficient enough damage to kill off this top tower just yet. Neon Link is just very contentedly not farming, as Bone 7 does have his Blink Dagger up. Really strong farm by Bone 7, 15-minute Blink Dagger travels, but he blinks it in the wrong position at the wrong time. Gonna find himself coiled, the shock shot not latching, but that's not gonna matter whatsoever, as they sped up the Spectre illusion trying to hunt down Fada, but Fada will be able to escape. Fada is going to rush that straight up BKB, and that's going to be really important since Buck has picked up that really fast dagger. But Bone 7 has just been farming remarkably well. Unfortunately, his first blink gank is really not paying off. And the Radiant gonna mech themselves up, go to town on this tier 1 tower up on the top lane, and I think they will be able to kill this. They don't have the coil, but Sidran trying to get in position. The blink just a little bit too nice, as he does manage to dodge the Vendetta hit at the very least. Puck will be able to escape for now. Puck is just gonna teleport himself out of there, and looks like, oh, if that arrow of the disruption did manage to catch Puck, would have died for sure. But unfortunately for Mouz, they did not hit. Barrett flying overhead does want to get a lasso engagement, but won't be as lucky. Link, since the majority of the team was up on the top lane, as well as the majority of the Dire team, he's been able to farm up a bit more effectively. He is going to hit hold 9, get another point to that dagger. And he's going to have that Blade Mill up in 50 gold, and that's going to mean that Mouz can't really focus him too heavily in these team fights since they don't really have the HP to handle a lot of Blade Mill damage, as well as the Puck AoE damage, the Darkseer AoE damage, and the Crystal Main AoE damage is definitely nothing to laugh at. Windrunner interesting enough went for Tread, so I guess wants to have that extra bit of mana switching around with the intelligence treads, as well as having the extra bit of HP from strength treads. As here comes Gation on the top lane, Puck will blink on ahead, and so far Lion's probably just really taking it to Mouse. Here comes the last engagement. They will find out Mini will definitely die. The Sonic Wave really nicely dodged by Hester Joran. I don't think it managed to catch him, but it looks like Hester Joran will be on trouble trying to orb out to safety. Noya will get caught by a beautiful arrow by Black, but he's going to pop the mechanism. Darkseer just so damn tanky. Spectre will haunt himself in. Moonlight Shadow will be popped, as Queen of Pain does manage to kill off Darkseer, and Spectre, smartly enough, does not reality himself up to the top lane crit. Will potentially be the next one to follow. The Shackle Shot just does not latch. He was aiming for the tree, and he didn't know that Black was so close to the Queen of Pain. He just looked to do as much damage as possible before he died, but Black picks up a sudden killing spree, and that's going to go a long way in fueling his next item choice. So Lion's Pride going a bit too aggressively definitely cost them quite a bit, as they have been able to play some very, very aggressive wards, but still, I'm not too sure how much they can capitalize on it. Puck has the dagger 4, 1, and 2, has been able to do a really solid job thus far. We'll see what he decides to go for. may go straight up into Hex, may go to a 4-staff instead, but you can see the power of Moonlight Shadow just means
Dire's
that
bottom tower is under
they
attack.
might be forced to go for a very early gem choice for the puck. You know, Cinnamon has finally been able to hit level 6, just trying to ward off whenever he can find room to do that. And Puss, level 8, has a bracer as well as a couple sets of wards. Looks like they're farming at the Shadow Demon a bit more, or I think Shadow Demon's just been surviving the fights a bit more effectively as Vendetta will go down. They will be able to find Mini up on the bottom lane. That Sentry Ward will cost Mini his life as an Assassin does manage to kill out Crystal Main. I think they did see Crystal Main place the ward, but it's really not worth it to D-ward a Sentry Ward. They can just wait for it to time out since it does have a shorter duration. If this is an Observer Ward, then it would be another story, but a Sentry Ward, not so much. And I'm sure Cinnamon probably checked Mini's inventory to see what kind of ward he had before he placed it, so they're not going to bother D-warding this. JK! Fuck you, Mouse, proving me wrong. I guess they want to have the extra bit of mobility from Nick's Assassin as well as having Moonlight Shadow, but I don't know, that's arguably not worth it. Maybe they didn't know what kind of ward Mini placed, and that's got to be the only reason that they de-warded this in the end. Neil Spectre has finished the Blade Mail. We'll see what he decides to go for. If he goes for Yasha, or if he decides to save up for Radiance. Radiance could potentially be very useful up against the dagger up on Barrett, but he has Wits of Child to also maneuver himself into a favorable position if he chooses to go that route. Meanwhile, Fada, still farming up, really has not participated in too many engagements, has instead decided to devote the majority of his time to farming up, and he's going to get rewarded for his efforts. We'll have a finished BKB shipped towards him, and the Radiant, looking for an engagement, could find themselves struggling up in this next engagement with a full-on BKB up on Fada. Here comes the Haunt. We'll spot out Barrett at Bone 7. We'll find himself silenced. Desolate doing a lot of damage to Bone 7. He gets immediately melted by the Darkseer Iron Shell, and that will mean a free tower for the side of Lion's Pride.
Radiant structures are fortified.
You know, BKB has been finished up on Fada. This tower on the top lane will get picked off that illusion and definitely helping him out by a bit, giving him an extra bit of damage. You can see Dire have been able to pull ahead in terms of experience just because they've been farming a lot more. You know, the arrow does match hit on Link. What an arrow, threading the needle, splitting the D in basketball terms. Unfortunately, they couldn't follow up with the slam dunk. You can see Cinnamon desperately wants that slam dunk. Won't be lucky enough to find it. Instead, another unlucky Sentry Ward being placed by Mini, but a shackle shot being beautifully placed in with the help of the vacuum. Really remarkably done by Lion's Pride. Managed to kill off Black as well as the Nick's Assassin. And Fada randomly pops his BKB. This is pretty significant. 10-second BKB charge. Not only is it the longest duration, it also has the longest cooldown, so that means Fada won't look to take engagements for the next minute, otherwise he might be in danger of dying. And of course, BKB charges are so much more precious these days. 4-second BKBs are pretty much nothing in these era. I mean, 4-second BKB in the late stages of the game, that only lasts for one lasso or one roar. So that BKB charge, I mean, it won't be punished as heavily since there's nothing to lasso or a roar on the side of the Radiant, but still, having that extra second will mean quite a bit, and Fada, that might come back to haunt him in the next upcoming engagement. Meanwhile, Bone 7, just farming out of his mind, has picked himself up a 4-staff since Barrier is pretty much the only person on the side of Mouse who can farm the jungle efficiently. And you can see the gold graph favoring Mouse by a decent amount, despite them not having nearly as many towers. You can see that Radiant actually have a 2-tower advantage compared to Mouse, who have only managed to claim 1 tower. The experience graph favoring Mouse by a bit as well.
Shadows take us.
But still, 2k experience advantage, definitely nothing to write home about at this moment in time, as Moonlight Shadow will be used. Mini, oh my god, Mini just caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. Once again, here comes the puck. Will he orb himself in? BKB is used by Queen of Pain as it does come up in the nick of time. They're going to pursue Crit, as Crit will be in a lot of trouble. They didn't use the lasso just yet. Here comes the Haunt. We'll disable the Blink Dagger from the Barrett of Fada. Does manage to get a nice Shockwave right onto the face of the Darkseer. Meanwhile, another beautiful Shackle shot by Crit. Won't really amount to much, as Link does manage to reality himself back into the fight, but really without too much support, won't be able to make too much happen. But this looks like Puck did manage to secure himself a double kill at the very least. And It's going to be a slight victory for Mouse, all things considered, but still, the fact that Spectre did manage to get a decent amount of assist gold as well as a decent amount of experience definitely going to help him out, as he is going to make his way towards the Diffusal Blade. Wants to really have that purge up on the heroes of Mouse, since they do have a bit of maneuverability themselves. You know, Bone 7 just stealing the jungle away from the side of Lion's Pride, and Link forced to teleport himself back to the bottom lane, happily farming away to his heart's content. Unfortunately, Fada has already used 2 of his BKB charges, and it's only 23 minutes in the game, and they haven't been able to claim 1 tower off the usage of those 2 BKB charges, so that indicates that this game will go on towards probably the late stages of the game, where Queen of Pain's BKB won't really mean as much. But the biggest thing about Queen of Pain BKB is just when Puck initiates, you will have the BKB to get yourself out of trouble, so I guess that's not all for Fada in this game at the very least, as he is most likely going to work his way towards the Hex. You know, checking out the items on the side of Lion's Pride, Puck trying to make his way towards Hex. Black has finished his own BKB, has already used 1 charge so far. So, it was BKB, not SNY in the end. And Mirana dealing an astounding 139 damage per hit. You know, Spectre with the Desolate can do up to 200 damage per hit, so definitely nothing to underestimate, as the Sentry Ward will spot out Cinder and Mini just spending all of his gold on Sentry Wards, and they have been paying off somewhat, but he is sacrificing a bit of tankiness in favor of these Sentry Wards. Meanwhile, Bone 7 going to make his way towards his own BKB, and keep in mind, Lion's Pride don't really have anything to hold the BKBs of Mouse in place. They don't have anything like a Golem, they don't have a Black Hole, they don't have a Reverse Polarity, they don't have a Lasso, they don't have a V-Sass to Roar. So once these heroes use their BKB, they can pretty much run around uninterrupted, unhampered by any magical damage within its duration. The only thing that goes through BKB is going to be the Haunt illusions and the illusions of the Darkseer Wall. And I guess Focus Fire, but is that even a spell? You know, Darkseer, it's been a while since he's picked up an item. He's saving up a lot of gold in the tank. We'll see what he decides to go for. Could potentially go for a Pipe, could potentially go for an Aghanims, could potentially go for a Hex. It's really difficult to say what Darkseer will go for. Darkseer very flexible in his item choices. I'm going to be inclined to believe that he will go for a Pipe, since there is a lot of magical damage being thrown out by Mouse, as Puck, with the haste rune, the coil immediately snaps by Bone 7, as the Moonlight Child once again going to be used, and Barrier will be able to escape. Meanwhile, looks like it'll be the start of engagement as a Haunt will fly in. They do manage to last to the Puck. Here comes the Vacuum Wall combination. Fada caught between a multitude of illusions, won't be able to get the appropriate Sonic Wave angle that he was looking for. Crystal Main Ultimate will be channeled as Cinderin will manage to get a stun off. Spectre does manage to kill off Cinderin in the end. Black completely out of mana. Will he be able to escape? Does pop the magic bomb. Queen of Pain does manage to get a return kill up on the winner, and Mini is going to get himself killed off as well. Link in the midst of everything looking for a kill, but Mouse just cutting everybody relentlessly, so it's going to be a 2-for-2 engagement in the end. Definitely favoring Lion's Pride in the end, since they did manage to get Barrier in exchange for 2 supports. And of course, killing Cinderin is it's a cherry on top of the sundae. But still, Spectre has only just been able to hit 100 CS, and I can see Spectre in these fights. She's pretty much relegated to just haunting in and just saying, "Rah, I'm a Spectre, fear me." But once you get some damage, she can really start putting out the hurts. Meanwhile, Mirana has picked up a Yasha. Could be a casual Yasha, could be an SNY, could be a Manta style. Me personally, I'm not too big of a fan of just straight up rushing a Manta, since it doesn't increase your DPS too much, but in terms of split pushing, it does a bit. In terms of survivability, it does a bit. But I'd prefer to see Yasha into something like a more damaging item, whether it be a Maelstrom, a Crystallis, an MKB, something of that nature. Meanwhile, checking out the items on Mouse again, not too much progression for them. They're gonna maneuver themselves into the melee, and recognizing the Haunt is still likely on cooldown. Meanwhile, Spectre has finished the Diffusal Blade crit with Treads, saving up a lot of gold. Will likely work his way towards a 4-staff or a Ghost Scepter, but probably a 4-staff, since, I mean, what physical damage are you really afraid of? Pretty much only the Mirana, and her physical damage output is just not too threatening at this point in the game. You know, Darkseer, have you picked up an item yet, my friend? Looks like you are working your way towards some semblance of an item. It is going to be a finished Pipe of Insight, so that is going to give Lion's Pride a lot more survivability at this stage of the game. Because again, I mean, Mouse, they do a lot of magical damage, but their physical damage output is just not as threatening in comparison. And we'll see with this Pipe usage if Mouse will be pressured by Lion's Pride, since Lion's Pride do have a Pipe as well as a Mechanism. Meanwhile, Mouse don't have either of those items. And so far, it doesn't look like they have any intentions to build that item. I guess they don't really need a Pipe since they're probably going to mass BKBs, but I've got to figure Mech is going to be a very useful item nonetheless. But unfortunately, their supports are just a bit too poor to afford it. You know, I think Lion's Pride have probably taken advantage in terms of the gold graph, as Smoker C is going to use Black, sensing something's up. We'll be able to escape on out of there, as Puck does manage to get a Blink in Silence Coil. Black immediately going to pop the BKB. And that's probably worth it for Lion's Pride. They forced a BKB usage. And that means Black won't have the extra bit of survivability in team fights as this game goes later and later. And we'll see if Mouse decide to defend their tier 2. Instead, it looks like they're going to go for a tower trade on the bottom tower. But I think the Rain can probably push a lot faster, since they have the Windrunner, and Mouse have not yet made their way towards the tower just yet. And Lion's Pride still have a glyph, so we're going to see if they're going to choose to glyph this tower so far. Looks like they will glyph up the tower, meanwhile Mouse won't do that. Their glyph is still on cooldown, but I don't think Lion's Pride will be able to get themselves into position to defend this tower. So Mouse finally claiming one tower at the very least, but still, at the cost of a tier 2 tower, not worth it for the most part. And that means Lion's Pride, even though they're on the Rain side, all they have to do is kill this last tier 2 tower, and they will have control of Roshan. And keep in mind, the Barrett or Flying Vision nerf means that he really can't control Roshan as effectively, just because he can't really see as far in the pit. Meanwhile, Darkseer as strong as ever in the Roshan pit, since only nerf that happened was Vacuum, and you couldn't really cast 2 Vacuums in a team fight, regardless of the situation, unless the team fight was just lasting way too long. Looks like Mouse, despite what I was guessing, have still managed to hold a steady grasp on the gold advantage, experience advantage favoring Mouse as well, but again, these deficits can be easily overcome by Lion's Pride, as they are going to give up a middle tier 1 tower, and it seems like Mouse is not too keen on defending the tier 1 or tier 2 top in exchange. You know, Link, instead of getting additional damage, decides to straight up upgrade his Diffusal Blade level 2. Anticipating that he won't be able to use all of his purge charges. I like this choice. It'll give him a lot more damage. It'll give his Han Illusions a lot more damage, and he wasn't really using the purge charges too frequently anyways, so I think this is the right call. As Black gonna have a Dream Coil used on him once again, and this is just solely to activate the BKB, and if that was the goal, that was very successful. As I think Black would have been able to escape, but maybe just panicked a little bit. So another BKB charge has been used. And that's pretty much all these Dream Coils are being used for, just to zone Black out of there, force him to use BKBs, and just make his teamfight potential in the late game just a lot less effective, since, I mean, you will be able to be stunned by Crystal Main Frostbite, Dream Coil, Vacuum, all those other abilities. So Cinnamon gonna initiate on the bottom lane. Link will take a lot of damage. Here comes Barrier coming in. Will be able to secure the kill. Meanwhile, Crit gonna blink himself in with the Blink Dagger up on the Windrunner Dendy build on Crit. Meanwhile, Cinnamon will most likely die as Spectre gonna buy himself back. Will pick up the kill on Success, and you saw that one hit with the Death Slate in conjunction with the Diffusal Blade damage just melted Nyx. So in the end, that was worth it for Mouse, as they managed to burn a buyback on Link. Drained quite a bit of his gold, but they did reveal the fact that Queen Pain did have a dagger, as Last is going to go down onto Noya. Does Mouse have a sufficient amount of damage to kill him off, as the arrow does manage to hit? Soul Catcher also amplify the damage on Noya by quite a bit. Meanwhile, Mirana does pick off Crystal Maid, picks off Windrunner as well. Black pumping out the DPS. Meanwhile, Link will be in a lot of trouble. Fada will find himself killed off, but in exchange, he will give up his life to Black, as Black suddenly pumping out so much damage. I underestimated the damage potential of Mental Style, but also Lion's Pride as a team without the Darkseer is quite squishy. And now, Spectre might potentially be regretting his decision to buy back, since he's just burned through so much of his gold. Meanwhile, Barrett are gonna go for a Vlad's. Or, I mean, considering he's a teammate of Eternal Envy, this could potentially be a Mask of Madness. And you might be like, well, that's crazy talk, but it does give Barrett a move speed, which I think is one of Barrett's main goals. but this will likely be of Vlad's to increase the damage output of Mouse. Considering trying to save up as much gold as possible. Crit did have the dagger, has now picked up a gem. That Moonlight Shadow being able to be used very frequently has definitely allowed Mouse to escape from some very, very sticky situations, as the arrow by Black looking to perhaps latch onto Hesta Joran won't manage to hit. And this is definitely a teammate of Eternal Envy. He's going to pick up the Mask of Madness, increases move speed, but Puck has picked up the Hex. But this barrier is getting dangerously close to being capped out in terms of item slots. He needs to sell his bottle, and I don't know, might have to sell his Mask of Madness in the late stages of the game, but still a long time before that eventually does come around. Moonlight Shadow is going to be popped, but I don't know, Mouse should probably know that Crit does have a gem, so this is going to be a very, very iffy engagement. The Dire do have a Sentry Ward there, so they can potentially scout out any Observer Wards or Sentry Wards themselves, but Black just going to reveal they weren't going to go in too aggressively for this engagement. As I say that, here comes the engagement by the Barrier. They're going to immediately melt down Mini. Here comes Haunt. Poss going to pop his Ghost Scepter. Will there be a Diffusal Blade being used by Link? Here comes the wall. It's going to be used at a very, very nice time. A lot of the BK charges have already been used. It's Link going to take a lot of damage. His Blade Mail not negating the damage by enough. And looks like Mouse cleaning up so far. Barrier going to be held in place for now, as Crit going to blink himself out to safety. And he will be able to escape. Meanwhile, Puck managed to escape as well, but that was another successful teamfight being concocted by Mouse. And Spectre just not been able to do that much. In terms of tankiness, all she really has is a Blade Mail and some drums. She is just being melted from the Soul Catcher and the magical damage being pumped out by Mouse. She might have to consider following Evo's build a bit more carefully with the BKB of her own. You know, Mouse gonna take this time to rotate into Rosh. Darkseer is dead, Spectre is dead, and they know Spectre doesn't have buyback. She's already used the buyback. And this Roshan gonna eventually fall center. We'll have to be careful of the Thunderclap. And it looks like Mouse recognized. Alright, we have a lot of magical damage, but against Roshan, we really need the physical damage output to clean him up. And so they're not gonna be able to take that Roshan engagement. But Mouse, the BKBs are definitely winning the game, but you can see Black is now down to his 4-second BKB. Fada is down to his 5-second BKB, so as this game drags on, these BKBs will definitely become less and less effective. And Lion's Pride, all they need to do is hold on, because eventually Spectre will be able to get the damage as well as tankability to get themselves very, very strong performance in the late stages of the game. But you can see Mouse have definitely taken a decisive advantage in terms of experience as well as gold, considering that they have not taken nearly as many towers as Lion's Pride. They've just been able to climb ahead on the back of their superior farm. You can see their top 3 are much higher than the top finisher on the side of Lion's Pride. As you can see, Darkseer gonna get lassoed in. He's gonna find himself hexed up. He did manage to get the surge off. Here comes the Dream Coil, gonna be casted. The Hex gonna hold Queen of Pain in place as Fada will dodge some damage. Here comes the Vacuum Wall, gonna do quite a bit of work as the Haunt from Spectre gonna come in as well. Link will teleport himself in, will land himself onto Bone 7. Neo Spin will find himself stunned. Puck does manage to kill off Shouty, and Bone 7 will be the next one to drop, as now Mouse is in full retreat. Their BKBs have died down. Siren's gonna find himself Diffusal Blade up, but Crit with that gem gonna be able to reveal Siren. Arrow is dodged by Crit, and Lion's Pride have just been able to win their first successful team fight in quite a while. And man, really, really strong engagement. Nice counter initiation by Lion's Pride. So it seems like the team who counter initiates has the advantage in this game. Spyro managed to get a nice engagement, but the fact of the matter with that Darkseer was able to get the surge off before he found himself hexed up, just allowed him to escape to a secure location. Did manage to get his pipe, mech, and vacuum wall combination up, and that allowed Lion's Pride to pretty much steamroll Mouse in that team fight, since a lot of the resources Mouse were already expended on the Darkseer. Meanwhile, Link will be able to secure himself in Aegis of the Immortal, and suddenly the gold graph and experience graph are going to take a heavy upswing. It might not be in favor of the Radiant just yet, but it's going to make up a severe deficit, to say the least. Meanwhile, Fada going in for the Aegis Snipe does manage to cast Sonic Wave, but does not kill anybody. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. He's going to find himself diffuseled up. Fada will escape for now, but no. Hesta Joran won't let him hide just yet. Dispensive Disruption will be casted on the Queen of Pain, but the Iron Shell just putting in a lot of work. The dagger going to reveal Fada's location when he blinks out. Diffusal Blade going to be used yet again. Crit does manage to pick up the last hit. And meanwhile, Mouse in full retreat once again. Father tried to make a gutsy play, trying to time the Aegis kill. Meanwhile, Bone 7 blinked in, just said, screw that, I'm out. But in a matter of moments, Lion's Pride have suddenly taken a significant advantage. They have claimed all of the outer towers. Spectre has not done well, has been able to secure himself 3.8k gold. We'll see what he decides to go for, whether he goes for Reaver or maybe he goes for a bit more damage. That remains to be seen. It's likely going to be, yeah, it is going to be a Reaver. I like this choice since Radiant's damage probably not that significant, and Spectre has been dying a lot. I mean, more often than he should be as a Spectre, since Spectre should just tank up a lot of DPS, but the Heart will allow him to do just that, and in conjunction with the Aegis, it's going to be really, really tricky for Mouse to actually bring down the Spectre. Meanwhile, Black, his item potential has slowed to a halt, has not been able to pick up too much CS, and you can see Mirana just really not pumping out too much damage in comparison to other carries, and that is the main weakness of Mirana. She just does not do that much damage unless she gets maxed out in terms of items. And interestingly enough, Mouse not stacking Ancients. Maybe they realize since they've lost map control, the Ancients could potentially be swiped. But still, I mean, stacking some neutral camps could potentially be very useful. Or even having a Centaur Stomp could be very useful as well, as Lion's probably going to smoke themselves up, but Mouse, knowing that this could be an option, going to just hide in their base, their tails between their legs, and Lion's probably just going to have to sit and wait for now. You know, Puck gonna work his way towards the BKB. When was the last time you saw a Puck BKB? You're more often able to see a Puck refresher than a Puck BKB. And actually in the last game, if you looked at Denny's Puck, the last game that I cast, he managed to get refresher in the end. So, Puck BKB. I gotta think this is because of the Hex up on the Queen of Pain. She's just been able to constantly Hex Puck. Really annoy the Puck to no end. But if this is Heaven's Halberd, I mean, that could work potentially as well, but Puck's item slots are precious, and I don't know if Heaven's Halberd is an item that can make such a big impact that it warrants using one of Puck's item slots. But in this situation, Mini is going to get himself grabbed, and we'll just get melted down. Mini out of position, and we'll get killed off, but I don't think Lion's Pride were in position to push in anyways, since Puck was nowhere near his allies, and Spectre could haunt himself to a team fight, but was deciding against it. I think Spectre wants to finish the hard before he decides to go in for a push. But I'd rather Lion's Pride push in sooner rather than later. I mean, the BKB charges have been drained down for majority of Mouse's heroes, and Mirana is not yet pumping out the big DPS, but if you leave her alone for too long, she will be able to pick up the items that she needs to do a lot of damage. You can see she's going to pick up a Demon Edge, going to work her way towards an MKB most likely. So Mouse still have a really, really strong shot in this game. This game is still relatively even if it's slightly in favor of the Radiant. I know that was a bit of a contradiction. Shut up. Anyways, Link gonna be able to pick up the heart, and with this I think Lion's Pride should push. But Barrett blinked in. Looks like Puck will just be able to escape on out of there, and that's gonna be the cue for Lion's Pride to escape. Break just gonna barely whiff Bone 7. Not that quick with the reactions, and with this, Lion's Pride should try to make the move to push in. You know, the heart or the Aegis still has around 2.5 minutes left before it does die off. Barrett down to a 6-second BKB charge. Let's check out the items on the side of the Dire. Ghost Scepter has been in place for the Shadow Demon for quite a bit. Meanwhile, Puck just silencing some creeps, scaring me. Maybe they're going to wait for a Puck BKB. We'll have it in about 180 gold, but still, that might be a moment too long. Meanwhile, Darkseer has picked up a Blink Dagger, so wants to be sure that he can stay outside of the fight rather than being lassoed and hexed and chased into oblivion. So I like this Blink Dagger pick up by Darkseer quite a bit, but that now remains the question: who will actually initiate for Lion's Pride when they try to break the base? And the answer to that is, I'm not too sure. May just sacrifice Crystal Bane to the Wolves. But Aegis is going to be reclaimed in about a minute. And Barrett are going to fly overhead. We'll manage to snag Puck, but I don't know if Puck is going to be their perfect target to focus. Looks like Hesijoran's going to take a bunch of damage. He will end up dying. He's going to buy back immediately. Can't get himself back to the fight. He's going to teleport himself to the tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, Vacuum Wall going to be expended. Cinnamon will be killed off by Spectre, but Barrier did manage to kill Crystal Maiden in his stead, and the Aegis is going to time out. So good defense by Mouz. Bone Severn just playing super risky Dota, and it's paying off.
Dire's top tower is under
Puck was
attack.
definitely not anticipating being dragged out so far away from the tier 3 base, as Link wants to make the most of this Aegis, but it's going to time out relatively soon. It's going to be timing out in 5 seconds. Link is just going to have to get the heck out of there. I'm pretty sure they wrote down the Aegis timing and they're like, well, gotta bail for now. But here comes Lasso onto Puck once again. Do they have enough damage to bring down Puck a second time? That could be momentous. But Bone 7 will find himself shackled up. Meanwhile, they will find Black. He's hexed up for now. Can he leap away to safety? He will be able to leap away to safety thanks to the BKB. Meanwhile, Queen of Pain pumping out a lot of damage in the form of the Sonic Wave. Queen of Pain did manage to kill off Darkseer. Gonna turn her attention to Puck. Meanwhile, Bone 7 will buy back. He's gonna go look for another engage in Lion's Pride. Link gonna be unlaunchable. He will likely die as he's gonna pop the base with. Will he pop a Drums Charge as well? He's gonna still be unlaunchable. Here comes Puck on the offensive as he's gonna find himself arrowed. Wow, what an arrow by Black. Obviously intended for the Spectre, but landed squarely on the Puck's face, and the Queen Bee does manage to pick off Spectre in the end, so Mouz cleaning up shop in this engagement. And you can see in Lion's Pride being a bit less experienced than Mouse Sports, definitely coming back to bite him in the ass in this engagement. They were not able to retreat effectively, and that allowed Mouse to get themselves right back in the game. They will be able to claim this tier 2 without too much of a fuss, and Spectre can't buy back, so this tier 3 is going to be a lot of trouble.
Radiant's middle tower.
I don't think the Rex will fall since Darkseer will respond with the Vacuum Wall combination, but this tier 3 will definitely fall. We'll see if they go up the tower. They will, but here comes another lasso. This will finally grab the Windrunner, and that is going to eliminate the pesky gem that was annoying us to no end. And Darkseer, will he risk his life in order to get a Vacuum Wall combination to save the Rex? Looks like he will not choose to do that. So Mouse actually will strike first blood in this game, taking the first set of barracks at the 45-minute mark, and they have been able to get themselves a healthy advantage. Since now Mirana is getting to the point where she actually does damage. She's gonna have the MKB now, and she can start working her way towards some major items, whether it be Daedalus, Butterfly, anything's possible for Mirana. And Roshan's gonna respawn very, very soon, and suddenly Lion's Pride are on the back foot, to say the least. The goal graph and experience graph definitely gonna reflect the huge deficit that Lion's Pride are in currently. And what's been the cause of this? It's just been Bone 7. The lasso has just been really, really remarkable, just chasing down Lion's Pride relentlessly. And that's why Byra is still a top tier hero despite all the nerfs. Queen of Pain has picked up a Shiva's Guard. Mirana still saving a lot of gold, wants to have enough money for buyback because Roshan is going to be respawning, does not want to give up that buyback cost until she gets the Aegis. Shadow Demon has picked up a 4-staff, has now taken the gem that Windrunner has forfeited to the Darkseer. Meanwhile, Nyx Assassin trying to save for the Dagger Seer, definitely suffering, but his team is winning, and that's all that really matters. Mini, not too much of anything, only with a Bracer. This definitely ain't no puppy CM. As meanwhile, Ghost after being picked up by the Windrunner. Darkseer still holding to that dagger. Meanwhile, Link trying to farm up. What will he go for? It's likely going to be a Mantis Style or Butterfly, as Bone 7 will snag Link once again. And Mouse, they're going to focus a lot of damage, but without the Soul Catcher, it's going to definitely be a lot harder. Link going to eventually drop. He's so low in terms of HP, but the Mechanism Pipe going to allow him to live for now. Cinnamon will fall, and looks like Mouse just getting a bit too cocky, taking the fight right outside of Lion's Pride base, and it cost them 3 deaths right before Roshan. What a critical error by Mouse Sports. Queen of Pain will buy back. And Nyx can buy back as well, but they won't have the barrier for the next minute and a half. And Lion's Pride just going to push in as much as possible and then take Roshan. They know they can't take Middle Barracks. They're taking barrier as buyback and they're going to try to force it, but we're going to see very soon. No, they're going to make the right move. They're going to go to Roshan. And I don't know if Mouz can actually contest this. They really need the Baron. He's definitely been the catalyst in all of these engagements for Mouz. And Link, that heart definitely helped save him in that engagement. He was taking so much damage. If Shadow Demon was there with the Soul Catcher, Link would most certainly have died. And that could have potentially been the end, because Mouz would have been able to get Roshan, claim the last remnants of the tier 2s, and then perhaps switch to take the last, or another set of barracks. But now, it's looking very much up in the air. Mouz still have a significant advantage, but actually, Lion's Pride, perhaps fearing the Baron or buyback, not going to go in and dedicate themselves into a Roshan engagement where they're not certain to win. You know, Black with an MKB does have enough money to buy back. Goldgraph still very much in favor of Mouz. Well, I mean, 7k is not really the biggest deficit at 50 minutes a game. 10k experience advantage, not the biggest deal either, even though it is very, very annoying. Because at this point, even though you do get the stats, you do take longer to respawn. It does cost more money to buy back. And the majority of the heroes do already have their level 3 ultimates. Actually, the only two heroes who don't have the level 3 ultimates are Nyx Assassin and Crystal Maiden. And Nyx Assassin is trying to make his way towards the dagger, but still is going to be thwarted for now. And Bone 7, on the other hand, going to go for the Hex. That Mask of Madness, it's questionable how much it's actually doing, but he has been able to get a lot more effective drags, to say the least, especially with the BKB. I mean, he grabbed Puck here, and they kill him off here with the Force Staff, with the help of Mask of Madness and Boots Charles. So I guess that Mask of Madness has proven to be very, very effective. You know, checking on net worth, Black is ahead of Spectre by a healthy amount. 4k is definitely nothing to sneeze at, but Spectre a lot more deadly at teamfight carry, but Mirana can definitely trump her in terms of single damage or single target damage output. We'll have to see what Spectre decides to go for. MKB has already been fished on Mirana, and Spectre probably knows, so Butterfly won't probably be the choice for Spectre. Might have to be Manta, but I think she needs a bit more right-click damage. And she might regret going straight for that Diffusal level 2. These Purge charges starting to become very precious. Zenoya gonna find himself arrowed. But, oh, Barrett are gonna come in, and you can see Zenoya gonna be dragged all the way back near the tier 3 tower. Siren gonna find himself frostbitten up. Spectre will get a kill on Siren. Meanwhile, Link, the vacuum wall will all be used. Darkseer will be the next one to die, as Queen of Pain will be able to escape for now. Black gonna be driven away. And it's going to be a 1-for-1 engagement when everything is said and done. Bone 7 looking for a snipe onto Mini. Won't be successful. And this will come back to haunt him as he will forfeit his life once again in exchange. Bone 7, his eyes are bigger than his stomach, just looking for the big plays. And so far it's been working out, but in that one instance, it definitely didn't help Mouz, as they might have forfeited Roshan on the back of that, but it's doubtful. The wall's down, and there's no buyback up on the Darkseer, so the Roshan will remain safe for now.
Shadows take us.
Yeah, Moonlight Shadow will be used. Arrow gonna fly, and here comes Hex onto Black. He's nice defensive disruption being used by Paz, as Black will be able to get himself out of trouble for now. Queen of Fate does manage to pick off the Crystal Lane. Here comes Shiva's guard. It's gonna go down onto Puck. BKB will be used by the Queen of Fate as well. Link taking a lot of edge, gonna try to teleport himself on out of there. Can you escape? No, the Nyx Assassin Impale will help to secure the kill on Spectre, and this will allow Mouz to clean themselves a very, very nice Roshan. They tried to initiate with the Moonlight Shadow. It didn't really work out. Crit trying to escape to the best of his abilities. He should be able to escape. He has the Force Staff. And Fado will turn his attention to Roshan. This is not Cheese Roshan just yet, but still, the Aegis on Black will definitely be very, very, very important. And Black probably going to try to fish Satanic. He's going to sell his one in exchange for the Aegis. But yeah, that Moonlight Shadow gang, what a weird engagement. They initiate with Moonlight Shadow, and then Lion's Pride have full awareness of that. They counter-initiate with the Hex onto Black, but just didn't have enough damage to bring him down. And outside of Spectre's damage, there's really not too much consistent DPS on the side of Lion's Pride. And once Mirana pops the BKB, there's really nothing outside of Spectre damage that can really scare Mirana, even for 4 seconds. So Mouz definitely making the most of Lion's Pride weakness in their lineup. They're going to claim another tier 2, and now Mouz have re-established control over this game. And Spectre, not using buyback, very, very smart. Has picked up Yasha, gonna go into the Manta style, but yeah, Manta will give Spectre a lot more damage as well as a lot more survivability, but in terms of damage output, probably want to favor other items at this stage in the game, but what can Spectre honestly get outside of the Manta? Wants to hold on to Blade Mail, wants to hold on to Diffusal Blade and the Heart. So she does still have a bit of room to grow, but it does remain iffy. You know, Barrier, he's died in a couple of these engagements, so he hasn't been able to pick up his Hex just yet. You know, Sinrin still trying to work his way towards that Blink Dagger. We'll have it very, very soon. Is going to have it. Well, in about 70 gold, and Sinrin might decide to buy more wards since he's a team player. Interesting enough, Mouse don't have any wards on the map, and that's because Lion's Pride have constantly been on Mouse's side of the map for the past couple minutes. And they've been de-warding as best they can, but I think they've probably lost 2 gems. No, Crit was able to escape once again. But you can see Windrunner going for a utility build. And Windrunners, usually in the offlane games, they like to go for, or in the old days, they like to go Phase, Mech, Force Staff, into Hex, into MKB, but this Windrunner, since she's a support, just really going for all utility items, and that's costing her quite a bit in terms of damage potential, since Windrunner, she's sort of like a Mirana. She does have a lot of survivability and does have the potential to do quite a bit of damage if you build her appropriately.
Top tower has fallen.
You know, I've got to imagine that Black will finish the Satanic or Boots Travel, as here comes the engagement. They will be able to catch out Barrier as well as the Queen of Pain. Double BKBs will be used, as Puck going to find himself in a very, very awkward position, but still will be able to survive the majority of the Sonic Wave damage. The Queen of Pain with the Haster will be able to escape on out of there, and Barrier will escape as well. So in the end, Lasso and Sonic Wave in exchange for a Dream Coil and Haunt, pretty much even, but I've got to favor Mouse slightly more, because Haunt at this stage in the game, definitely not something you can really fight without. And Barrier Lasso has such a short cooldown, 50-second cooldown at level 3, means that he will have it up in time for the next engagement for sure. Meanwhile, Queen of Pain holding out to 6k gold, and slowly but surely, Mouse getting a huge gold advantage, experience advantage in favor of them by over 15k, gold advantage in their favor by over 12k. Even Shout floating with 3k gold might work his way towards a Hex, since nobody inside of Lion's Pride has the BKB just yet. Puck has been working on this item for the longest time, but unfortunately he's just not been able to pick it up. I don't know, if I were him I'd just sell the bottle and try to finish it, but then again he wants to save for buyback, and that's completely understandable. All Black once again looking for an arrow. Here comes Batter. Will snag Mini once again. Look at the drag distance. Mini just gonna melt. Very appropriate death of Crystal Mage burning to a fiery hell in the blaze of Batter's, I guess, fire. I was gonna say something a bit more inappropriate, but Blink gonna find himself arrowed. Here comes the Shackle Shot. Will manage to hit on Fada. Fada gonna find himself in large trouble. Fada will die. The vacuum wall was there, and the ion shell damage output was just very tremendous. Sinrin gonna die as well, and looks like Lion's Pride will be able to hold on for now. Can Mouse retreat effectively? They are gonna get the Shackle Shot onto Poss. They will be able to clean him up, and Lion's Pride holding on to hope. And they will be able to defend for now, but you can see as soon as Mouse lose that engagement, they're immediately split pushing all the other lanes, making sure that Lion's Pride, even though they won engagement, they don't have any potential of pushing in to try to break down Mouse, and this will save Mouse a lot of buyback gold and save a lot of grief, since in the late stages of the game, buyback is going to be the most important factor. Because Creep Equilibrium is constant, that means Lion's Pride won't be able to push in, and they're going to be able to hold on to buybacks for now. I know that wasn't very articulate, but you're gonna have to excuse me for now. Meanwhile, Bone 7 will have enough money to finish the Hex. We'll see if he goes for buyback. Bone 7 in this game, definitely not the type of player you'd anticipate saying for buyback, but again, buyback is probably the most crucial factor. And you can see Black has finished Satanic. Aegis will time out relatively soon, so it looks like this Aegis not able to accomplish too much, but the next Roshan will have cheese for the first time. And cheese is just of the utmost importance. And the Aegis is pretty good as well. Make no bones about that. You know, I've got to imagine that Spectre probably will look to sell phase boots, get boots of travel, and then sell drums to finish her last damage item. And she really needs damage. Because even though Lion's Pride have been able to kill Nyx Assassin, even Queen of Pain when she was caught in an awkward position, Shout, even they had the potential to kill Batrider, Mirana's getting to the point where it's just going to be incredibly difficult to kill her. She has 2.5k HP, not counting the Satanic Lifesteal bonus that can bring her up to almost full HP in a matter of moments. And Spectre really needs to be the damage source that can keep Mirana in check. But Lion's Pride looking to regain some map control. They know that Aegis will time out relatively soon. As Mirana picks up a Chrysalis, she's going to go for the Daedalus, but she will hold on to Chrysalis for now. She does again, of course, want to save for that buyback. You know, War Ward's coming in for Mini. No item progression whatsoever, and you can see Crystal Maiden is suffering quite a bit. The only thing is that you can say for Mini is that at least Bone 7 sometimes focuses the lasso on her rather than Lion's Pride's other more important heroes. And when Queen of Pain BKB is down, holding Fada in place with a Frostbite, preventing her from blinking, is still very, very important. So Mini does still do quite a bit, and if she manages to get off an uninterrupted ultimate, that has the potential to do a lot of damage, but that's just so unlikely. Master has so many disables that that possibility is just gonna just be completely, I guess, I don't really know what to say. It's just not gonna happen. She will never be able to challenge the full ultimate with all the disables that mouse sports have. You know, I've got to think that Windrunner gonna go for the Hex next. Or may look for some damage. I don't think she can really afford to go much more utility based. She sort of needs to go for the Hex. They need to have something to lock the Potom in place. And Potom getting more and more scary in terms of damage output. Right now, only pumping out 600 damage in terms of crit, but no Daedalus just yet, no Butterfly either. I'm a bit surprised she hasn't gone for a Butterfly. Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised she didn't go for a Butterfly. But I guess she wants to have the MKB in conjunction with the Crystallis, or the critical hit, rather than having that extra bit of evasion as well as attack speed and damage. But Bone 7 once again gonna snag Mini. Mini once again gonna fall. Fada gonna go in, and he's just gonna blink away to safety. But Fada,
I'm sorry. Did you
slow
say
for now.
stop?
But I mean, Mini just burning up her Deathline, so appropriate. Since Bone 7 just seems to have a fetish, as Link gonna get snagged with an arrow, and this is a long distance arrow. You saw how much damage that did? But looks like Mouse don't really want to follow up. They don't have the lasso, and their team wasn't really in position to follow up in any case. But they just will come up in a matter of moments, around a minute and a half before they just does come up. And Bone 7 now has enough money to buy the Hex, as well as to have enough for the buyback. So now Spectre has to contend with more hexes, and more hexes, more problem. I think that's probably what Biggie meant when he said more money, more problem. He meant more hexes, more problems. But I could be mistaken. You know, Darkseer picked up BKB. He knows he has to get off all his abilities in team fights, and being hexed definitely won't help matters. And it might be time for Link to consider selling the Blade Mail, or selling the drums, pick up a Hex. I think he actually needs to sell the Blade Mail. He needs a BKB, and he needs damage. And, I mean, Blade Mail won't really help you when you're hexed up. So, in the overall scheme of things, checking out the net worth, you can see Mouse have been able to hold on to a steady advantage throughout the game. Hero level, at this point, again, it doesn't really matter. Kills, death, and assists, Mouse definitely, well, I guess it's relatively even, all things considered, 33 to 34. 67 kills in 62 minutes. A really, really tense game, but Mouse still have an advantage, all things considered, just because I feel like Spectre is just, by himself, can't carry the whole team to victory. Especially against the lineup as mobile as Mouse is. Especially with an underfarmed Crystal Maiden, an underfarmed Windrunner. I mean, and I guess an underfarmed Puck to some degree. But Puck has finally been able to finish the BKB, so now it doesn't really have to be too troubled about the hexes. AC has been fished on the Queen of Pain. That is just going to help out Mouse's damage output by such an immense amount. And it increases their armor by a decent amount as well, as Link going to pop the Blade Mail up against creeps just to help melt down the creep wave. Fada will just be escaping very safely, but all the while a team fight is breaking out and Fada won't be there. He's teleporting himself back to base. Spectre just going to haunt himself next to Black, going to go in. Black going to leap out to safety, going to pop the Manta Style as well as Pipe is going to be used as well. A very, very late Pipe, and it might expire before Fada re-engages as he will spot out Noya. Here comes the Screen Pain. Sonic Wave going to be utilized. Darkseer still has the wall. He's going to fall before he can actually use it. Black will get himself picked up, but he's going to immediately buy back. Windrunner going to buy back as well. Fada in a lot of trouble. Very, very low into his HP. Sonic Wave will be used onto Puck. Link going to find himself hexed up. Does manage to get himself right back in the thick of things. Here comes the Shadow Poison, going to be stacked on Link, and now Link in a lot of trouble. He has Napalms, he has Hexes, he has everything stacked on him. He is the Stack Lord. But Link's just going to pop Blade Mail, and he says, screw you, B-Ball. Blade Mail is still the best item in the game. And Spectre going to die in the end. He will have to buy it back. Does he have it? He will. He doesn't want to have to use it, but he will have to use it since Mouse. They're going to push in. They're going to force Spectre to buy back. And Mouse, in the end, such a chaotic team fight, but the biggest factor is that Darkseer couldn't cast the wall. I thought he would have cast it in this jungle engagement, but Mouse were just able to maneuver out of it, but he didn't cast the wall at all in that team fight. And at the very least, he'll have it in the base defense or the next Roshan engagement, but I don't know. Not having the wall could come back to bite him in the ass. At the very least, they force Black to burn his buyback, and Mouse actually going to go in for Roshan, and that will allow Spectre to have buyback and haunt, as Barrett will get another Lasso Drag. Holding Puck in place will get the Hex online. If they manage to get an arrow, they will be able to kill off the Puck, but Puck will escape. Not really the biggest deal for Barrett. Again, Lasso has such short cooldown at this stage. It can be used very, very frequently.
Pain without consequence.
But Roshan has been killed by Mouse. And Shadow Demon actually picks up the cheese. That's not made any item progression, interestingly enough. Aegis has been picked up by the Queen of Pain. And Spectre, she's dead for so long that Mouse might actually have to force her to use buyback, but no. They still have Glyph. Or Lion's Pride still have Glyph. So at least Spectre can revive, buyback, or die, buyback, and perhaps get enough kills to allow Lion's Pride to defend. But Lion's Pride's still in a dangerous position. Arrow gonna go in, scouting out everybody. Glyph is gonna be forced, but once again, Bone Seven spies out his target. It's gonna be the Puck. Puck will have to pop BKB. He's gonna die in the duration of one lasso. Does he get enough for buyback? It looks like he doesn't. Haunt gonna come in by the Spectre, but it looks like he wasn't able to do too much of anything. Noya gonna find himself hexed up, and Link gonna take a lot of that. Shackle Shot holding Black in place. Crit with these shackle shots have definitely been on point. Blink, Vacuum Wall. Vacuum has not been used, unfortunately, for Noya. Can't really find a position to Vacuum. Does manage to get Vacuum. It doesn't really suck them back into the wall well enough, but Link just going to work still at above half HP crit. Will be able to get a power shot, trying to do as much damage as possible, but just simply not enough. Fada will find himself hexed up. Will be forced to use Aegis? I think he will, as Spectre going to come in. One Diffusal Blade slash a Desolate combination will be able to pick off Fada, but Barrier's Lasso will be coming relatively soon. 5 seconds, and Bone 7 going to look for his opening. He will look to find Lasso, but the Shackle Shot going to hold Fada in place. Will be able to bring himself out to safety. Will Barrier to go in with the Lasso? That remains to be seen, as Black is dead. He doesn't have buyback, and that's definitely the reason why Bone 7 hasn't re-engaged. And now Synderen going to find himself in a lot of trouble. He's going to get stunned up. Meanwhile, Crit will be the next one to fall. Going to drop the gem again. But Queen of Pain does manage to kill off Crystal Maiden. Link now in full retreat. Mouse swings this engagement without the primary farmer in the form of Black, and Link gonna fall. He does have enough for buyback. He's gonna have to burn it right here just to defend his tier 4 towers as well as his tier 3.
Radiant's middle tower is
And
under
Mouse
attack.
winning this very, very long war of attrition in the end. Just with more items and more mobile heroes, we're able to allow them to actually win that fight. And Spectre actually picked up a Basher. I was wondering how Nick Sesson got himself stunned. Link with the Basher. Interesting choice. I guess they need to hold Mirana in place, and Basher is going to be the best way, but I don't know if Spectre has the attack speed to do it by himself. I mean, 144 attack speed, all things considered. It's not really the biggest steal. But all things considered, Lions Pride, they got what they came for. Even though they were forced to use Spectre buyback, they burned the Aegis. I think they burned the cheese. They did burn the cheese on the Shouty and honestly gave it to somebody else. But now Black is going to go in with a vengeance. And since he's dead for so long, his buyback is actually going to probably be up next time he dies. Assuming they don't push in right now, but it looks like Mouse, that's precisely what they're going to do. And Bone 7 just going to split push, pushing out the creep waves as much as possible. And that's just been the story of the game. Mouse have just been able to split push a lot more effectively since Lions Pride are just a squishier lineup, and they have such fear being planted in them by Bone 7 that they can't really split push nearly as effectively as Mouse can. And this is why, even after all the nerfs, Barrett is still a top tier hero. Just the presence, his presence on the map just installs so much fear that it just makes you forced to group up. And even if you don't use the lasso, you do gain a significant advantage just by out farming, out experiencing, out leveling the other team. But Lions Pride's still very much in it. That vacuum wall still does have the potential to do a lot of work, and Spectre probably needs to go for straight up damage. She doesn't have buyback at this point. Might be, I don't know what she can actually go for though. That's the thing. She's item capped out. As Link gonna take a lot of damage. Will be able to phase out for now. And Shackle Shot gonna hold Fada as well as Black in place. Defensive disruption gonna allow Black to survive for now. He's gonna be able to pop the BKB. Bone 7 will be able to grab Link. Link is gonna take a lot of damage. He's gonna get himself soul catcher. He's taking so much damage. Black is manning up. Will be able to kill off Link, but Mirana is gonna trade his life in his stead. Black will have buybacks sooner than Bone 7 can respawn. Noya on the retreat, trying to escape on out of there. Disruption actually, bit of a misclick by a pass as he disrupts himself. Definitely not his intended choice. But Mouse, not losing anybody, exchange of picking off lines, 3 of Lions Pride heroes. And Spectre doesn't have buyback. This might be the end of Lions Pride in this game, as Mouse just been able to keep ahead in terms of net worth, in terms of item slots, and in terms of farm.
Radiant's bottom barracks are
And looks like Mouse will be able to kill off the bottom barracks. And I think they might even be able to kill off a couple tier 4s. Glyph is not online. Barretter looking for his billionth snag of the game.
Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
Yeah. Lions Pride don't have Glyph. And Mouse are just going to actually go into for the tier 4s. Black buys back.
Radiant's top tower
And he's
has
going to
fallen.
rotate to the top barracks. Instead, Disruption going to be used on Crit. Flamebreak going to push Crit back. Lasso going to hold Crit in place. Crit is going to die. Noya taking so much damage. Spectre still has 30 seconds on his respawn. I think this is going to be the end of Lions Pride in this game, as they fought with such a strong effort. But unfortunately for them, Mouse just got too far ahead in terms of items. And Lions Pride just didn't have enough damage outside Spectre to really control Mouse. But what a game. Really, really intense game. How many kills is that? 87 kills in 70 minutes. Action-oriented, a lot of great positioning. But in the end, Mouse able to get themselves to a nice advantage in Group A. And they have yet to face Team Liquid. So we'll see if Mouse can move on, keep up Cinerian's 100% win streak at Dreamhack Summer, or if they're going to be stomped. But Lions Pride definitely put up a really solid fight for a new team, and they definitely have nothing to be ashamed about. So hopefully you enjoyed this commentary. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please subscribe so you can catch more Dreamhack Summer matches. If you haven't watched them live, I will be casting a lot of YouTube matches of them. So I'll see y'all next time. Peace.